This is episode 98 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Welcome to episode 98 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I hope you enjoyed your Christmas and Boxing Day and were able to responsibly spend that time with friends and family. Really important time of the year for so many I know out there who are going through emotional challenges and really need that support system. So I really do hope that you found a way to do that with the people that matter most to you. Today's episode is going to be a real treat. So to get back onto real estate focused things, I've got Jacob Perez on the show. Jacob was on the show in the first 10 episodes. Really smart guy, really aggressive business person and real estate investor. We got into the absolute weeds when it comes to a couple of the BRRRR projects he's working on right now. One of them is a project that's going to be worth approximately $1.3 million when he's done. It's an 8-plex. And then there was another one we discussed as well in there. And we dug into cap rates, debt coverage ratio, all that fun stuff. So if you're not familiar with that stuff yet, I would encourage you to download my cash flow spreadsheet on my website. You can just go to www.andrew-hines.com and you will see the link to download my cash flow analyzer. In that sheet, it actually calculates debt coverage ratio and cap rate so that you can see how those two ratios work and hopefully get a little bit more comfortable with them. And then one additional thing I would recommend if you are new and you're trying to get these concepts down is go right back to the earlier episodes, starting with episode 1. I think you'll get a lot of value out of that. And I know so many people who I've sent back to those episodes have thanked me for encouraging them to do that. With that being said, if you haven't already, please make sure you rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, leave me a comment, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you have not already done so, just so that you can stay up to date on the most recent episodes and it'll help more people to find it. So thank you so much. Please enjoy episode 98 with Jacob Perez. Hello and welcome to the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I have returning to the show from episode 5, I think, Jacob Perez.
Wow, episode 5. I didn't realize it was that early in the show, but the show's definitely grown a ton since. I mean, I can't say how many people have reached out to me say, hey, I heard you on the Andrew Hines podcast. And I'm like, whoa, I did that, over a year ago. And it just seems like the popularity keeps kind of growing. So congrats to you. And I got this nice new setup here, so happy to be in a little bit more comfortable than last time.
Yeah, the last time we were in my basement, dog walking around. Yeah, it wasn't the best. Anyways, no, so I've graduated to finally not in the basement anymore. So we've got a fan. ProFunds is nice enough to let me use this space. So
it's a beautiful spot.
Yeah, they got a really nice office here, so we snagged a boardroom here. But anyways, Jacob, I know you're real busy as a mortgage agent, helping people with financing, but you also are heavy into joint ventures, heavy into cash flowing deals. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what's changed since the last time you were on?
Yeah, so I had to do a little recap. Where was I at last time we chatted? So I think the last podcast was around March 2019.
Yeah.
And I think in the title it said something about 17 units, right? So now I guess it's like about a year and a half later and I'm at 39 units and, kind of actively looking to buy. So I've kind of doubled my portfolio since then. Okay. And been using, a lot of the same strategies. So still using the BRRRR strategy, been doing a lot of the duplex conversions in Hamilton. That's kind of just like my easy, steady singles. And then, a lot of properties I'm looking at that are bigger are usually outside of Hamilton. So whether it's 4-plexes, 8-plexes, I picked up a really nice 8-plex deal in Sarnia.
Was that where that was? Because you were standing outside of a pretty big building. I thought that was Hamilton. That's in Sarnia?
No, so that was in Sarnia. So we got 8 attached townhomes in Sarnia. And, that was actually one of the few COVID deals somebody got. So I think at the beginning of when this whole COVID thing hit, everyone was like, what's going to happen with the real estate market? I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to see if prices drop, things like that. And, what we all kind of found out was as soon as the first lockdown ended, prices kind of soared in kind of all these different markets in the GTA, greater Hamilton area, what have you. And we kind of got a deal at market value at the beginning of COVID, which now looks like a really good deal. So, we bought this 8 townhome complex and the cap rate was around 7%. And when the appraisal came in, every single comp in the appraisal is between a 4% and 5% cap rate.
In Sarnia?
In Sarnia.
No way.
Well, they were using a lot of London comps, to be honest.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And the thing is, too, is that because they're townhomes, the rental income per unit is a lot higher than what these, apartment buildings they were comping it out at because, there weren't a lot of good comparables for it.
Right.
But yeah, we got a great deal. It cash flows a ton and we're going to turn over as many units as we can in the short term and get it up even higher.
So this is you and
me, and that one's me and Sean Rea. Sean came across the deal. He asked me if I wanted to go in it with him.
in Sarnia, though.
Yeah.
That's a real stretch from where he is.
Well, he reached out to me because I own a four-plex in Sarnia. And he knew I had some connections down there and things like that. He was actually asking me what I thought about the deal. And that's how we kind of came about on that property.
So how many units is it?
It's an 8-plex. Yeah.
8-plex. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to go through roughly what those numbers are now, since we're talking about it?
Yeah, I mean, like with that one specifically, so we picked it up at 800,000. I think the existing rent roll on it had it cash flowing about $1,200 a month.
Okay.
After all expenses, and once we turn over the units, it's going to be a little over $3,000 a month.
3,000 cash flow
per month.
What do you figure you'll be into for renos on that? Like once you've turned them all over, like, are you going to put 20, 30K in per unit?
So when I was going through the property, I was like, wow, these are 2-bed, 1-baths, but we could easily convert them to 3-bed, 2-baths. And the property management company we have in place, who's kind of managed the property for a long time, they said, hey, you really don't need to do that. We just turned over one unit. We put about less than 10,000 in it, and they're getting top end market rent on it. So it's one of those things where I'm looking at it from a Hamilton investor perspective, saying, hey, I want to make this thing beautiful. I know what kind of rents you can get in Hamilton. Yeah. What the experts in Sarnia are telling us is, just go light on the renovation. So maybe less than 10,000 per unit, and we'll be able to get top market rent with that.
All right. So 80 grand. And then if we want to add in, so you bought it for 800. So if we added in legal fees, all your renos, all your carrying costs, would you say would probably be around?
So with that one, we put 20% down on it. So that's another rarity. Yeah. It's like sometimes with commercial financing, you're going to get different answers everywhere you talk. Yeah. Right. And with us, we probably talked about 15 different commercial banks, and only one specific bank had really good terms for us.
Was this BMO?
This was BMO. Yeah.
I was going to say, called it out.
Yeah.
Because I know a guy, so Austin Mulder, he came to the meetup and he kind of educated me on this. He's like, yeah, we can get 80% sometimes. I'm like, you can?
Yeah. Yeah. So we get 80% loan to value, 30-year amortization, again, something that you don't quite often get on the commercial side. Yep.
30. Okay.
And then also, because this building's cap rate and servicing is so strong, now all of a sudden, if me and him want to buy more buildings in this corporation, well, then our loan to value and amortization opportunities are much better on underperforming buildings because we can utilize this as well.
That's
kind of thing.
That's awesome, man. Okay. So renos, I'm just going to put in, like, say 100 grand, including your land transfer, whatever. Sure. That's your cost. So your purchase in reno, you're about 900K. Your new valuation, what do you figure it'll be worth once you get those rents up?
It sounds like a stretch, but I've looked at a lot of appraisals in my life. I've studied the appraisal report, and for me, looking at the numbers, it can't be less than 1.3.
Okay, 1.3.
And at that point too, like, our goal would be to take it to a CMHC loan where we'd be hopefully getting 85% loan to value.
Yeah, I'd still budget on the 80 because they'll probably cut you back on a couple of things, right? They do their own internal.
Well, CMHC did approve it at 85% when we originally
without cutting back.
Yeah,
like they appreciated the whole valuation that you had.
Well, when we bought it for $800,000, they offered us a mortgage at 85% loan to value on the building.
Oh, okay.
And 35-year amortization.
But you didn't go CMHC.
We didn't go CMHC because we didn't want to lock ourselves in. We wanted to go to CMHC after.
Well, you're gonna want to like refinance it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So did you go like with a 5-year term or?
Well, they were offering a 5-year term. For ours, we put it on a variable, so it's very similar to variable on the residential side.
You can break it?
Yeah, or we can break it. Okay. Exactly.
So what are the penalties if you break it?
Still 3 months interest. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was the conversation we had. But I guess we'll learn that the hard way if it comes.
Okay, so hypothetically, say you bought it for 800. If you have 100 grand in, including your closing costs, you're at 900. Now it's cash flowing while you're renovating, so that's nice. So it's not really bleeding cash or anything like that. So you get, say hypothetically, you get I guess it would be 1.04 million would be your new mortgage. Holy crap. So you're looking at a net investment of negative $140,000 when you go back and refi.
Yeah, we haven't been able to find a deal like this since. So we thought when we picked this up, we're going to find more like this, and that we're comfortable playing in this space, that we kind of figured out the commercial financing, right? Because that's always kind of like a black wall for a lot of people. That's the harder part,
right? I think people have a fear about that because they don't know how it's going to go. The rules are different.
Yeah.
With the fixed mortgages, you can't break them. You pay the full term's interest, right? So I didn't know variable was different than that. I thought it was a similar deal.
Yeah. So, I mean, you'll see they try to incentivize you to go to the fixed. The fixed rates were much lower than the variables they were offering. Yeah. The fixed rates were like 0.7% less than the variables they were offering. So we took that higher rate variable because, know the consequences that come with it.
I like the flexibility. I'll pay for the flexibility, right? Because as an investor, if all of a sudden you want to refi, I guess they probably would do a blended increase for you if you wanted to, but
yeah, but then you can't necessarily take advantage of the CMHC refinances where
there
you
you go.
want to go.
You want to be able to break it and go CMHC. And that's the key thing. Like I hear people talk about CMHC loans and talking to realtors, they're not going to wait. You're not going to be able to tie a property up for 6 months while you try and get CMHC loan approved. So the best way, from my experience and understanding, would be to buy it first, do what you're going to do to it, and then go through the process because it takes a while, right? I think Kyle Ford was talking to me. He told me it took like 11 months to get it done.
Depends on the property, depends on the environmentals, what happens, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, conventional loan on the way in or a private loan on the way in, and then, hopefully refinance through CMHC. But yeah, you can't rely on that. Real estate is so competitive.
Yeah, they're not going to wait forever while you try
winning an offer when you need to extend the closing date 3-4 times. It's pretty difficult.
Yeah, it's getting competitive out there, right? People are just having to come in. I was talking to a realtor. He had a 22 unit building listed. And his comment to a guy trying to buy it was, come to me with a firm offer. That's the kind of thing that's happening right now. People are actually, when they're trying to get it for a good deal. I'm not encouraging that because it's dangerous. But, for the right, some people that works. So what do you think you're going to get average after you turn these over? What's your rent going to be?
Between $1,300 and $1,400 per unit.
Okay, so $1,350 we'll call it times 8. So you'll be about $10,800 gross monthly rent. What do you figure your taxes will be ballpark?
Taxes on the building, I think, off the top of my head, I think they're around $8,000. They might be a bit more, but I think it's around $8,000.
Okay, and then insurance on something like that, probably like
$400 a month, something like that. So I think it was like $4,500 a year. It wasn't too bad.
That's not bad at all.
We got about a bunch of different quotes. One again significantly under, while still giving us pretty reasonable coverage. So again, it's just you have to do your research on what's out there.
Yeah.
A lot of times what you'll find is that, even like you said, BMO, right? Well, you can talk to the wrong person at BMO.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And you can get a different answer,
yeah,
right?
you need to know who to deal with. And one person can say no. Like I've given the story before. I went to RBC for a deal and one person like pretty much laughed at me. Like, why would you come to us? Like your deal doesn't work at all. Your ratios are way out. I went to another guy I know at RBC and he's like, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah.
And I got it done. And I was like so frustrated with that. So it really isn't about the lender. It's not about the brand. It's about who you're working with.
Exactly. And certain commercial advisors, they get more leniency with the underwriters due to their track record, right? Exactly. So sometimes the one person might be doing the right thing, but they don't have the leverage that someone else might have in the bank.
You really do want to find out what's working for investors. And I know you work with investors a lot, and this is exactly to the point. Like I want to work with a mortgage guy that helps investors do exactly what I'm doing. Or does it themselves, or a combination of both. Yeah. That's where I want to be. Okay, so I'm going to put 5% for maintenance, 5% for management, because that's pretty much what the bank's going to do.
It is 5% for management as well.
Yeah. Lawn cutting.
I don't know. I think we just got a quote on this. Honestly, I can't tell you what it is, but let's say in Hamilton, I pay for a similar property about $200 a month for full service year round. So I would say that one doesn't really have much lawn. There is definitely a lot there. So, you can put 3,000 if you want to be conservative.
Okay. So we'll say 3,000 to be conservative. And then I just put 500 miscellaneous for that. Okay. So you said you figured 1.3 million would be your value.
Mm-hmm.
So on that, your cap rate, if it is a 1.3 at the end of that, it looks like your cap rate's at 7.44.
Yeah. With the raised rents. Because we have a lot of the units in there right now that are rented at $800, things like that. Right. So it's going to be a pretty significant raise. And then the thing is, because they're all kind of their own encompassed units. Like all the utilities are going to be isolated out, and there is no common space in the building. There is no common space, so there literally is not a utility for us.
So there's no utilities whatsoever.
Well, we're separating the meters now. That's the idea. But the hydro's already separated. The gas is already separated. Just the water that we're trying to figure out right now.
Oh, okay. Actually, I better just in case you don't get that one. So water.
Maybe put 5,000 for the year, something like that.
Yeah, just in case. Okay, so I see then that you're about a 7.06% cap rate, which is pretty crazy. Your debt coverage ratio is 1.86 to 1. So you'll have no problem you should have no problem getting that mortgage approved with the bank.
So that's the thing is that I think what we're going to find out is that really the value of this property is going to be how it allows us to buy more commercial with better terms than we'd be able to do otherwise had we come in fresh.
So you're saying that the bank's going to see you doing well with this property and they're going to be more inclined to want to lend to you again because your first property performs well.
Well, it's more like this, right? Let's say the bank has a debt service coverage ratio of 1.2 that's required in order for them to give 80% loan to value. If we have one property at 1.7, well, then maybe they could lend us on the next one something under 1.2 while leveraging the cash flow of the other property, as long as it's bought in the same corporation, the same owners.
Okay, so they might be willing to play ball with you and let you do that. And I've heard things like that, although I think they may want to put mortgage security on both properties then.
Which they had already had in the first place.
Yeah, so they already control both properties, so they don't care. Yeah, so I just figured 30-year AM, 2.5% interest rate. You might even do better, though, with CMHC than that.
Yeah, exactly.
So if we said 2%, then your debt coverage ratio is like almost 2.
That's what I'm talking about.
Which is like ridiculous.
We didn't realize how lucky we got with this deal.
You got lucky, yeah.
We're not experts. There was quite a few offers on the property. I think every single person just offered full ask. That's all we did as well. And it was probably who had the best letter, who had the best write-up. Right.
Oh, so you did a write-up to the seller?
Yeah, I said, hey, I own a mortgage brokerage. You could look us up. I finance these kind of deals all the time, so we will have no issues closing on the property. Sometimes that can be the difference. And, we're lucky, like Sean, for example, he puts out a lot of content. I put out a lot of content. You never know how this stuff's going to help
Google,
you. Yeah. Someone's going to Google you, see who you are. That definitely makes a difference to a seller, I would say.
That's interesting. And I've heard people doing this, like putting a cover letter on their offers and presenting it to sellers. I've never done that, but I have heard of it. And that makes a lot of sense why that would work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to differentiate you. I mean, of course, it is a lot about confidence. Who's a person that can close? So you were conditional on this?
Yeah, we were conditional on it. I think we were conditional so basically the way it worked was they wanted a specific closing date and they wanted a specific conditional period. And I said to the realtor, I said, hey, look, I know that no one's going to be able to satisfy this conditional period in 1 week. They wanted a 1 week conditional.
Yeah.
And
unless they go private money.
Yeah. So I said, no one's going to be, I said this hoping he'd believe me. I said, no one's going to be able to satisfy this conditional period in 1 week. Right. So we can do that, but we're going to have to extend it after 1 week. And he said, well, this is what the seller wants. So we put it in for 1 week and we did extend it after that. I mean, everything actually went according to what I said. So, we were able to tie it up with a shorter conditional period, and then we were able to extend the conditional period because guess what? The tenants weren't cooperative with us walking through the units. So, the tenants in a bigger multifamily, if you set up your conditions where it's conditional upon you getting access to all the units, the tenants are probably going to help you out and buy you more time just for their own difficulty kind of thing.
Yeah,
right?
that's true. And it depends on the realtor on the other side if they'll let that slide through. They'll be like, no, it's 10 days from when you start.
Yeah.
So it really does depend. Another one you can write in, and I know if realtors don't like this, is you can write in you have a conditional document review period, and it starts when you get all the documents.
100%.
And you list out all the documents. But they may say no way, because you could just say we missed a document, or if we don't have that, then what do we do with that?
Well, so that's one thing we did not include that I learned that we should include in the future, and that's what I put in all my commercial offers now is condition period begins once I receive all these documents, because the reality is the bank can't assess the financing if they don't have the documents.
Those documents. Yeah, so you'd need. Do they want 12 months or 2 years worth of utility bills? Tax bill, insurance bill.
I think, depends on the lender kind of thing, right? I think the most important thing is just the tenant acknowledgements and the rent.
So they want those. So they want tenant to acknowledge each rent. So you can't just provide a rent roll.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. I think it's going to depend on the bank specifically, but when I'm doing an offer, I'm asking for as much as possible and seeing what they come back with.
Yeah, because it's all going to depend. With the business side, they're also unique in what they want, and then you really do need to get to know them. They need to get to know you, and then you get on a working relationship, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's good. Like if you can build that relationship out with your lender, then over time it's going to get a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can start just calling them up. Hey, can I get this done? Oh, it's like your last one? Okay, yeah, we'll do that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Did you need an environmental study on this one?
Nope, no environmental needed. I mean, honestly, it was the easiest situation ever. It was to the point where, the guy we were working with at the bank, the commercial advisor, it was almost like I was waiting for the catch at every point in the process. I kept triple checking. Yeah. He was so nonchalant about the process. It was making me uncomfortable. Like he had no worries with the process. I was starting to get uncomfortable being, there has to be something else. There has to be something else coming. But no, it worked out really well. I mean, Sean and I, we both been through the mortgage process a million times. So we have all our documents. We're not a mess as clients. Yeah. Everything's pretty straightforward. So it really wasn't too big of a challenge.
Yeah. What did you guys just do 50-50 on the investment?
Yeah, so we did 50-50 on it. We just share the responsibilities. We have it under property management and go from there. I have a few properties with him and we have different agreements in every single one. We have some where I tied up a deal. I brought him in it. I made him finance it. We just did another one. Honestly, we should talk about this next deal. This one we just completed, just got the refinance check back for. This is probably the best BRRRR deal that I've ever done. And we just closed it. So Should I talk about this one?
Well, we're going to get into that in just a second. So hang on to that thought. We'll come into that. So just to finish up this thought, we got, I mean, if it is a 2% mortgage that you can get, if these rates stay as low as they are, you'd be looking at about $3,800 a month in cash flow on that.
Not bad to me.
So if you want to calculate that as a total return, you've got your annual pay down on the mortgage, which on a 30-year AM is going to be about $27,000. Then you're going to have $39,000 in appreciation if 3% is your appreciation rate, which I think there's some precedent for. I see Sarnia getting kind of aggressive in the near future, but I could be wrong. And then cash flow, $45,000 a year at that rate. So you're at $111,000 total return, almost 112, and your investment's negative. So we can't calculate a return on investment, but this is one property that's generating over $100,000 in return per year. Pretty wild, right?
Yeah. So I mean, this is just a good note for the people listening, the people watching. You know, Andrew's going through all these numbers. You know, he's giving you all the details. For me, when I assess deals, I look at a few basic metrics and like, that's good for me. So, you know, I knew the deal was good. You know, I didn't know it down to the numbers. So you're showing me right now on my own transaction, right? But that's the thing is like, you know, every approach to real estate is okay. You know, if you're going to be the kind of person who's going to crunch every single number, you're probably going to be the most prepared, right? But if you're going to be the kind of person where, you know, you want to know your 5-6 key metrics and that's good enough to move forward, you know, taking action is also a good approach.
I start to create shortcuts from doing this. I do this for the show, but once you start to do this a few times, you realize shortcuts. Okay, what rent do I need to get on a building, you know, relative to its purchase price to get roughly this cash flow? And then and you can quickly assess. Yeah,
the calculator in your iPhone can usually tell you most things you need to know.
Oh, yeah, just divide out. Like a while back, I realized that on properties when I was doing BRRRRs, as long as I could get 0.65% rent relative to my purchase price on a monthly basis, the deal would cash flow quite well. Like on a $500,000-$600,000, I'd be cash flowing like $600. Yeah. So I just knew that, so I could just prepare for that. All right. So you got another one here. Tell me about this next deal.
Okay, so this is the next deal. This will be good. I think people at home are going to like these numbers. It's one of these deals where, you know, part of me doesn't want to broadcast the numbers. I don't want my joint venture partners thinking this is the standard, this is the normal. Because the deal is so good. It's just, you know, if you do a lot of real estate transactions, you hit a lot of singles, every once in a while, you're going to hit a home run, right? So this deal was definitely that. So, you know, I was working as a mortgage agent and Sean picked up this deal off market and he was trying to, you know, partner on this deal with someone. And I was doing the mortgage and, you know, really quick assessment, you know, the person just could not qualify for this. There was 5 or 6 things wrong with the situation. It just, for whatever reason, just wasn't going to be a fit. So I was looking at the numbers on this and I was like, what kind of property is this? Oh, it's a legal four-plex for $243,000. What's going on here? So I said, hey, you know, I'll finance this property like 100%. Is it a good deal? It tells me a little bit about it. So anyways, we ended up buying this property in Port Colborne, Ontario, just south of St. Catharines, for people who don't know Niagara that well, for $243,000. So it's a legal four-plex. It's a huge building. There's 2 2-bedroom units and 2 1-bedroom units.
Did you say 243?
243.
Okay, so 2 2-bedrooms and 2 1-bedrooms?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's like purpose built, or is it
purpose built? You know, separately metered, massive building.
Everything's separate: electric, gas, water.
Electric is separate. It's electrically heated as well, so there is no gas in the building, I don't believe. And then there's water. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That is one thing that it's a bit of a potential negative for a tenant. But I don't know if you've really seen that much. We can talk about that after.
Yeah, it could be a negative, but you know, when you're in a town like Port Colborne, you know, you don't need the granite countertops and all this kind of stuff in order to be one of the more marketable units in the town.
Interesting. Okay, so what kind of renos did you guys put into that?
So this was the biggest dump I bought, hands down, by far. So, you know, even just like the exterior of the building needed to get done. It was something where it couldn't wait. The siding was falling off. It looked like just a complete mess. So what we ended up doing was we took possession. We're like, okay, let's see how quick we can start getting some of these tenants out. So we had one tenant who was willing to leave right at the beginning. So that was just an easy win. No cash or keys, just straight up willing to leave.
Yeah.
Then we had another unit where it just looked like somebody threw a party in there and, you know, nobody had been back from this party in a while. There was a couch flipped upside down. There was, you know, food left over. But it didn't really seem like someone lived there. There was a mattress on the ground in the room. We didn't really know. So got to talking to all the tenants in the building, and we found out that one of the tenants said no one's been there for 5 years, and she thinks the guy's dead or something. She doesn't even know.
Who was paying?
Well, so there was a government check coming in every single month for this unit.
Was paying direct.
So some kind of government agency was paying for this unit for however many years, and nobody even lives there.
Yeah.
So we contacted them. We said, hey, no one even lives here. No one's seen anyone here. And we cut off that, rental income and we just turned over the unit. So we thought someone lived there when we bought it. When we took over, we turned out we had a vacant unit we didn't even know about.
Wow.
So I guess the previous owner was just happily accepting the rent every month and not even wanting to take advantage of turning over the unit.
That's probably not the most attentive owner, which is what you saw.
Yeah, exactly. So, we ended up turning over 2 of 4 units. And so we did, new flooring, new kitchens, new bathrooms. And then we redid all the siding on the building and we redid the roof as well. And we got great deals on everything. We got a bunch of quotes for the siding around in the 30,000 range, 30 to 40,000 range. And eventually, we were going to give up. We were going to paint the existing siding. And Sean asked one company, he said, hey, all we have is 17,000 left in our budget. If we can't get siding done for that, we're not going to do it. And then somebody took on the job for that price.
Interesting. Do you do vinyl?
Yep.
Okay, vinyl. Did you have to do your soffit fascia eaves trough as well?
Oh, wait, sorry. Did we do vinyl? Honestly, you should ask Sean about this. He was managing the renovation for the most part.
Yeah.
But I'll show you pictures of it. Maybe you can show those and you can tell me what it is.
Yeah, if you send them to me, I'll try to remember to put them actually on the video version of this right now where we're talking about it so that it's overlaid on the video.
Yeah, so it's like, it was like kind of like that old beat up off-white siding before, and then it's all dark and black now. We put all white soffits and eaves troughs.
Okay, so you've replaced all that. Yeah. So yeah, that's really what it takes to make it look new again. And that, like from a curb appeal standpoint, just completely transforms a building. Aluminum siding actually is nice. Like I don't mind painting it because I think that can look nice too, but there's a certain point where it's beyond repair.
Yeah.
And then it needs to go. So what did you get into in terms of doing all that? Like what was your total reno?
Total reno was actually only about 65,000. So we hired guys just to do the labor, bought the materials, didn't like outsource it to a contractor or anything like that. Did it as cheap as possible.
And what do you figure the new value, or what was the new value according to appraisal?
So we bought it at 243. Right? We put in about 65. We were thinking it was going to appraise in the high 4s, which would have been an amazing deal. And then when I started pulling up the comps, I was like, what's going on here? I mean, the comps are way higher than 475, like actually way higher. So anyways, long story short, it ended up appraising at 585.
585, wow. 585. And you guys got 80% of that?
80% on that.
Okay, so this time. Okay, so 464.8 would be your new mortgage. So your net investment on this one looks like $160,000 money given to you. Yeah. So this is where the down payment for the Eight-plex came from. Then.
Well, no, we did this after the Eight-plex. Okay. Yeah, but
when you do deals like this, there's unlimited funds to keep investing.
It's crazy, right? Yeah. So not only did our down payment back, but we got $150,000. So how do you make $75,000 tax free? That's about almost like $150,000 salary just gained on the project.
Yeah. Now, what's your thoughts on like the tax implication there? Because that you're writing off the interest on that mortgage against that property. So how do you section that up so that you don't get into any trouble from CRA's standpoint?
Well, what do you mean? Like what trouble did you get into?
Well, if you didn't use that money for an investment.
The refinance?
Yeah, money? The refinance dollars.
Is that for some reason a problem? If you want to spend it on a trip to Mexico, is that an issue?
Well, because technically now you've got some of the tax deductible expense that is relevant to the property, and then that money that you pulled out, say you just took the $75K and went and bought a nice car with it.
Yeah,
that's not tax deductible. So now you've sort of kind of muddied the waters, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think a lot of people they'll refinance their rentals to prepay their primary residence. That's technically not a tax deductible asset.
Right. No, people do it all the time. I guess I'm just curious. Like, I don't know if this is actually a target for a CRA thing. Like, I err on the side of caution maybe a little bit too much sometimes.
Yeah, but, I mean, if you know me and Sean, we'll probably be putting in more real estate. I wish I didn't. I wish I spent it more on some fun or something like that, right?
Yeah, you just write back into your portfolio anyway, and that way, like, it keeps everything nice and clean and tidy. Yeah, that's just something to be aware of. Like I would say, for people watching, talk to your accountant, obviously. Okay, so let's talk about your rental rates on this. Like, what are you getting?
So we still have 2 units renting at $700 each. Those are the tenants that we have not kind of turned over yet.
Okay.
And then the new ones, one rents for $1,250 plus hydro. The other rents for $1,100 plus hydro.
Okay, so you're $3,750 on the building, which is $45,000 a year. I'll leave a 3% vacancy in there. What are your taxes on that approximately?
Taxes are $2,260.
Oh, that's very accurate.
Yeah, I just did the mortgage on it, so I remember.
Okay. Ballpark insurance?
Insurance on that one, I think we're closer to around maybe like $3,500 for the year, something like that.
Oh, really? Okay, that was more than I was thinking it would be.
Yeah, I mean, it's four-plex, right? So just the rebuild value, because the square
footage.
footage.
Oh, is it really square footage big?
It's massive.
Okay,
it's
see, that's the
massive.
thing.
Yeah.
It's all based on square footage. Okay, so maintenance, I'll leave at 5%. Water and other utilities. Like, what do you think you're into?
Honestly, no idea, because we just got it, so we're learning, right?
So you're probably going to be, well, which ones do you pay for?
So we pay for the two that we inherited,
Electrical?
and we don't pay for the others. So let's just say, I think if we want to be conservative, like $500 a month.
Well, I would say $2,500 for water for the year, probably.
Sure. Okay.
And then electric on those two units, those are probably each $80 a month. Would you think? I don't know. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
We'll see. I mean, all I know is, again, so this comes down to the details. All I know is we're definitely cash flowing pretty good money.
Oh, you're cash flowing good. And then there's no gas, right? You said?
No gas, yeah.
So it's $2,500 for water, 80 times 2 times 12 for the other stuff. So that worked out to be $4,420 on the year. We're ballparking it. You'll find out as you go. Maintenance, management will leave at 5%.
Well, we're managing that one ourselves. Okay. Yeah.
So we'll put this one at 0 for now then. From a bank standpoint, they're going to include it, but of course.
we're doing it on residential financing.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So that one doesn't matter then.
Yeah.
Okay, so lawn cutting and snow removal?
There is no lawn, so none of that.
Snow.
And then snow, honestly, I don't even know what our plan is there. I think there's only like 1 or 2 parking spots, so I'm not even sure that like it's required.
Okay.
I think it's kind of like do it yourself.
I'll leave a $400
$100 a month.
I'll leave a $400 for the year for that, just in case that comes up. Okay, and then you got a 585 on that, so let's just see it. Okay, so your cap rate on this is looking like it's 5.18%. Your debt coverage ratio, let's calculate that. So you got a 30-year, what interest rate?
2.2 on that one.
2.2. So your mortgage is about $1,774 a month, and you have a debt coverage ratio. Well, not that that's relevant to the bank if you're doing res, but it would be 1.42, and that would be $750 in cash flow.
Yeah, but I think it's a bit more, honestly. I think it's probably closer to a little over 1,000, just because we're not, we do things pretty cheap, but we'll see, right? We'll see.
Well, yeah, I mean, and if you just renovated, what kind of maintenance are you going to be paying? You're gonna feel the maintenance when those other units turn over.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And maybe the odd thing here and there, who knows, if you get roots in your sanitary connection or something like that. I don't know if you guys have had that issue or if you dug it up.
We've been lucky.
Yeah. Have you had that on any of your properties?
Yeah, I had one on a duplex conversion I recently had, leak coming up in the basement, the sewer issue, had to get it. Yeah. So I had to pay like, I think a couple $grand to get it fixed. And then that's still like a, temporary fix to some degree, and have to go through the city for more work potentially.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting them lined seems to be the opportunity people want. But it's all expensive and very annoying.
That's why you need the cash flow, right?
That's why you need the cash flow just to pay for it.
Just to pay for everything. Yeah. You don't want to be, if you're a busy person, you have a busy career, you want to be in a position where you don't need to get 5 quotes. Yeah, you might be being ripped off by a couple $100 here and there, but who cares? I want to not care.
I don't need the cheapest. Yeah, I have a very good feel of what things should cost, and as long as it's reasonable, I prefer a good relationship with somebody where I know they're going to do a good job, and I'll just work with them. Yeah. I don't want the cheapest, because the cheapest always ends up being more expensive. Yeah,
and I just want someone who, the most important thing for me is like communicate with my tenants and keep my tenants in the loop on what's happening, and you deal with them.
Yeah,
and you just send me the
invoice.
Leave
me out of it. Yeah, leave me out of it. Yeah, that's why anyone dealing on any of my properties, I'm like, here's the tenant's number, and if you need to, here's the code to get in.
Yeah,
and that's the easiest way to do it. So, okay, so this one's another great deal. Like, you guys are getting cash flow all over the place. You said your total portfolio, you're up to 39
doors now.
Yeah. How many properties is that?
That is 13 properties.
13 properties, and they're all JV'd?
No. So I'm kind of going back to trying to do full ownership model. So, if I'm looking at deals here and there that are a BRRRR where I'm 100% going to get all my money back, I'll take those ones kind of thing myself. Luckily, with this mortgage career, it's gone really, really well. So I have a lot of borrowing power that I never had when I was coming up and doing a lot of these JVs.
Yeah.
So I kind of handpick the deals I want to do myself kind of thing. I'm looking at different models as well for commercial deals where I'm taking more private funds to close and then pay myself back on a refinance later kind of thing.
Yeah.
I just think, when it comes to JVs, what I'm learning is I like joint venturing, but I want to joint venture with people who I could be on the ride with for a long time. So let's say, for example, the perfect joint venture partner is your age. That's what a lot of people don't realize, is the best joint venture partner is actually the same age as you.
Right.
you have the same time horizon with the property, right? But yeah, so a lot of them are JV'd. Some of them are solo. I'd say probably like 3 are solo, 10 are JV right now, maybe. Okay. But we'll see. I might turn over some stuff I have, take some capital, change things up a little bit. But, I would say 95% of my time goes towards the mortgage business. 5% of my time goes towards investing. So I like investing. I'm always interested in investing. I don't need to get myself motivated for it. I'm always gonna be looking for deals. I enjoy that. But the mortgage business takes all my energy because every single year we're dealing with way more clients. The investor pool in Ontario is growing like crazy. Everybody wants to invest in real estate for good reason. It's financial freedom. Everyone's trying to take care of their family and do these great things. So that's really my priority, is kind of growing my mortgage team and seeing how big we can get this operation, how many people like in Canada we can help every year. And then aside from that, just forcing myself to stay focused on investing, because, it's not something that requires a ton of time. This year it's really been outsource as much as possible. I need to get to the point where everything's under management, because I can't be involved anymore.
Well, I think you've got a nice maybe problem that kind of forces you to not be involved. And that's, you are so busy that you cannot manage these properties. The other thing is you physically couldn't, because I think you own in Windsor as well, don't you?
Not Windsor, no. Okay. Just Sarnia, Niagara, Hamilton. And the stuff in Sarnia, no, it's already under management, right? And it's funny the way management works, because you look at a market like Sarnia where the rents are lower, and you can get a management company at 5% out in Sarnia, no problem. But then you go to a place like Hamilton, everyone wants 7-8%, but the rents are way higher. So they want more money for the same amount of work.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, same amount of work and a lot more money.
And a lot more money
because the rents are higher and the percents are higher. Yeah. Like, you should just leave the percent the same. I've heard, between everything, people paying like 10-12% by the time they're paying leasing fees and rentals. I get it, because property management is sort of a thankless job.
Sure.
And I'm sure the people who are in it, like, I think most people in the business aren't that good at it. So it's a struggle for them. So they want to price higher. There are some companies that are just really, really well organized, and they do well. And I think that they can charge less because of that, right? Now in Hamilton, I guess that's just the going rate. So I guess good for them.
Yeah. So I've kind of transitioned to hiring people part-time to do certain things. So I have a bookkeeper,
that's what I like.
Doing all the bookkeeping for me. We're in December, and usually this is a point in the year where I'm stressed, because I have joint venture partners. I need to serve up their bookkeeping for all the properties for tax time. And usually that's on me. And that's a really annoying task for me to, go through all the receipts and everything at the end of the year. Right now we're in December and everything's perfectly organized. This is the first time in my life it's ever been this way, right? So, nice. That gives me, the confidence to attack bigger projects and do more on the investing side, because I'm not so bogged down with the management.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that too. Like, I keep my stuff so up to date that the new year rolls around. The most I have to do is just double check that the interest I've recorded is the same as what the bank sends me.
Sure.
Like that, just update my mortgage statements, and it's good for my accountant. My accountant actually can log into my QuickBooks, so I don't even have to send it to him. He actually just did my last year's tax return without even asking. He's just like, "Oh, I've got it ready for you." I'm like, "You do?" I didn't even know you were doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of a nice way, like, if you get really organized, and I think you got to have systems. Mm-hmm. So it's nice that you've delegated a lot, which I think everyone can learn from that. Me as well. I want to delegate more so that I have more time to look at new deals,
Sure.
Do that kind of thing. So your mortgage business, like, what's your background? I think do you have an MBA?
Master's in data analytics.
Okay.
So, I do have a BCom. So I did my undergrad in business, and I was like, your typical business kid. I want to be in marketing. I want to be in things that sound fun. Right. And then I realized, okay, well, these marketing jobs don't pay that well. I took a finance job with the government. Then I realized that I never want to work with the government. It breeds complacency, and I don't want to be a complacent person. No disrespect, but that's the environment it made me into. And then I decided to do a master's in data analytics, where I was learning, math, predictive modeling, all this different stuff. And I loved that degree. It taught my brain how to think numerically, mathematically, and it was really, really helpful. And then also the network I got from that program has really helped me. I have one joint venture partner who's just a fellow student in that program I bought 3 houses with, right? So little things that you never know that are going to pay long term. And then, I worked in a startup. I've done a bunch of different roles. And then, eventually I was just kind of like, why am I digging and fighting and interviewing to ask somebody to let me work for them when I could just go work in real estate? And I was already investing in real estate on the side. I always felt like I knew this industry. And that's when I joined the mortgage side. And then since then, the business has grown. This is my 3rd year. And we opened a brokerage at the start of this year. So now it's, running my own operation. Also,
I thought it was already your brokerage. You working with somebody else's?
We were a team, right? We were underneath the brokerage.
Oh,
and then eventually, we were looking at maybe switching. And then looked at all the numbers. It made sense to open our own shop.
Yeah. So now you guys deal with your lenders direct.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I imagine the big thing with brokers is you send a lot of business through certain lenders. So you get really good relationship. You can get deals done.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm sure, why your clientele can benefit as well.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, because we're, doing so many rental deals, like I have 4 full-time staff, my, one of my staff just bought an investment property this past month. Super exciting. My staff have underwritten so many different BRRRR deals, right? They know BRRRRs, they know all the terminology because it seems like everyone's on this wave, right? And the thing that's really great is like we're learning about all these markets, right? So I'd say the 3 markets that have just been going nuts the last couple of years have definitely been Hamilton, Niagara, and Windsor. Those have been the 3 where we're just getting people like, all these people from Toronto buying in Windsor, all these people from Toronto looking in Hamilton, Niagara, London as well. London is definitely another one.
That's so expensive now in London too. But
and that's the thing is like, I just had a client so for example, just like what's happening with the prices, I had one client buy a duplex in Windsor for $200,000. I had another client buy a duplex in Windsor for $600,000. So like the prices are going up in all these small markets. And what I'm learning from this is really people are buying until there's no more cash flow in like every city.
Hey guys, I just wanted to take a moment and give a shout out to a couple of very important local businesses to me. As you know, this lockdown has been tough on everyone and small businesses have been taking the brunt of it. So there's 2 specific businesses I wanted to give a shout out to. This is a completely unpaid promotion. They didn't ask me to do this, but I wanted to give them a shout out because I think they're really important and I want to see them be successful. So one is New York Men's Grooming Lounge here in Burlington, Ontario. I always see Sergio every month. They do a fantastic job. Their atmosphere there is fantastic. There's usually some Frank Sinatra playing in the background. They're a great establishment, even if you just want to go in and have an espresso or have a beer and chat. It really is a lounge and social location, which is just such a unique concept in today's market. Really like those guys. I really want to see them succeed. If you're looking for a fantastic men's haircut and grooming experience, I highly recommend them. The next one I wanted to give a shout out to is Dr. Mike White over at the Momentum Health Clinic in Hamilton. Dr. Mike has been able to help me many times over the years when I've hurt my back. He's a chiropractor. So I'd be in a position where I couldn't even walk. I couldn't turn. I was in an agonizing pain and I'd go to Dr. Mike and usually I'm 100% better within a week. Now, I know it's a touchy thing with a medical service. So always consult with your medical professional before seeking any form of treatment. I just wanted to let you know my experience here. And I certainly think Mike White is worth considering. I've included the details for both of these contacts in my show notes. Please show them support if you see fit. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Okay, so on that note, and I think the same. So I think it's like, and I say this a lot, so forgive me if you've heard this before, but when you drop a rock in a pond, the waves ripple out and then they hit the edge and then they kind of ripple back towards the center. Mm-hmm. So I think that this is the natural evolution of things. We've seen the waves ripple out. They've reached Windsor. They've reached Sarnia. It's going to push up only so high in Sarnia before now people are like, why am I driving all the way to Sarnia for this? And now they start rippling back towards the middle.
Yeah.
I see that happening. So I'm looking at markets that are not those because I see the pattern, see the trend. I know it's coming. Even Sudbury's on its way up.
Yep.
I mean, people don't mind bearing the cold. They'll go up a little further north. And I'm curious, what markets are you going to be looking to next, understanding what's happening?
Yeah, so great question. I think, when it comes to bigger multifamily and when it comes to BRRRR projects, if you're getting all your money back, you're pretty much safe in any market, right? Now, the places I like, is I still like Hamilton a lot because I feel like Hamilton is your sweet spot between being a small town and being close enough to Toronto that you're sort of in the mix kind of thing. So, I think what I've seen is that people will buy, like I said earlier, people will buy until there's no more cash flow. So you look at cities like Mississauga, Oakville, Burlington. Well, you're not seeing as much duplex conversions there and things like that you used to back in the day because there's not as much cash flow. So if I look at Hamilton specifically and I look at today's market rents in Hamilton, what it tells me is somebody could still cash flow at $800,000 on a duplex in Hamilton. So then it tells me, okay, well, I think duplexes in Hamilton can go all the way to $800,000.
$800,000, really?
Sounds crazy.
How do you believe that to be true? Like,
I'm just watching behavior of investors. It doesn't mean that I think that, right? It's just I'm watching the behavior that I'm seeing.
But do you think that they think they have cash flow and they don't at that price? Because I would assume they do not have cash flow.
No, I would say they do have cash flow.
So what kind of rents are they getting to?
So I'd say if you're getting, for example, $3,200, not even crazy number, with 20% down, 30-year amortization, and your outsource and your and it's all the utilities are paid by the tenants.
Okay, and then with lower mortgage rates, I guess. Yeah. So So this is allowing our prices to get pushed up. So the interest rates aren't really saving anyone any money. They're just paying a bit more on the purchase price.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So all these different behaviors and ideas to have more, to help people qualify more will just drive the prices up, right? Mm-hmm. So you talk about like same thing when they talk about things like, a universal basic income. Well, when everybody gets an extra $1,000 a month, what's going to happen to the rent prices? They're going to skyrocket and they're going to go accordingly to that.
Yeah, you're not gonna, like your real buying power will not be better if that happens. Exactly. UBI is a race to the bottom. Like it's not going to help people. It's only going to hurt because right now, for instance, just getting on that, like how hard is it now to get somebody to work for minimum wage?
Yeah.
How hard will it be when their option is to sit at home and play video games and collect UBI?
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that people think will help that I don't necessarily think will help. But back to your question, which markets do I like? Yeah. And I liked what you said about the ripple coming back because I never described it that way. But I'm kind of, I don't own a primary residence. I rent my home now, but I kind of dabble in I kind of want to buy a house because I can type thing.
I do that too.
Right. Yeah. And when I look at, Hamilton, where I'm from, and I see the prices, I go, I think the value is much better in Burlington. It's a better city. And I actually think, it's more expensive, but for the cost comparison, I actually think the value has shifted back to Burlington.
The ripple is coming back now.
I almost think the value is pushing back to even like in Toronto in some areas too. So it's kind of like I'm noticing what you said. I've been kind of feeling I just didn't know how to describe it properly because I am seeing that for at least the primary residences. I think for the rentals, they're still pushing outward because there's more cash flow, all that.
Here's what we've seen pretty much across the board all throughout Ontario is everything that was accessible to somebody making, say, minimum wage to $60,000 a year has been just snapped up and the prices have been driven up like crazy. The demand for units, say, under 400 grand has pushed even the crappiest of properties kind of up to near 400 grand. But then there's this threshold where it's just out of the reach of the average person, even the average, the above average person. Once you get into 800,000 plus, now it's only your far above average, above middle class Canadians that can afford those markets.
The challenge, right, is that to buy above $1 million, you need a 20% down payment. So if you buy at $999, you can get in with $75,000 down. You buy at $1 million,
the value you can get over $1 million. Once there's so much of the market cut out, now all of a sudden there's less people competing for that product. So what I've noticed in my properties is they were pretty expensive. They were at the top of the market in the student rental market. So I haven't really seen the appreciation like Kellen was on, and his portfolio has doubled, including what he's added into it since he was on before. Mine has not done that, which is actually pretty frustrating. If I had bought cheap properties that were very, very low priced and were easy to get into, I would have seen more of an increase.
And I think if you did go on the high end on something like a primary residence single family, you would have saw that appreciation. It's just in the rental where it's tied to the cash flow.
It's all about the cash flow. Yeah. My income hasn't changed. A little bit, but it's mostly the same.
Like I think like the property in my portfolio that's had the biggest jump in value, I think is my worst property. And the reason it's had the biggest jump is because it's single family and would sell to a single family.
Yeah, if it's in that affordability range for the average person, like they understand I can't buy anything else. And I see this, like people are spreading out because they want to be able to have a little bit more land, a little bit more space, and they can only afford so much. Like why would I buy, a tiny 1-bedroom condo in Burlington if I could go, an hour north and get a house for that price or something along those lines. So that just knowing that, psychological behavior, I'm looking to these little fringe markets, smaller towns. Like to me, as long as they've got city water, city sewer, I'll at least take a look.
Yeah.
If it's reasonably accessible to major areas, like within an hour or two, I think that's got potential.
It's also just a feel thing, right? I think Windsor's a great market. I think, proximity to Detroit is a little bit underrated still. You got pro sports teams, you got all these great things happening in Detroit, and it's 10-minute drive across the board. Right. So there's a lot of different things that I like kind of thing that I'm seeing in different markets. But one thing that I always pay attention to is for someone who's lived in Toronto and also lives in Hamilton is, there's a lot of demand for condos in Toronto because the discrepancy between the cost of a condo and a detached was so large. Obviously, we're seeing different things happen in the condo market right now.
Yeah.
But in Hamilton, I look at the price of the condos and there's not much of a discrepancy between the cost of a condo and a detached bungalow. It's like, a condo might be $450,000 or actually more than that for a 2-bed, and a detached bungalow might be $600 for a 2-bed. So when you actually factor the condo fees, those actually aren't that different when in terms of month-to-month cost. So that is another thing for me where I go, the value in Hamilton, I still think is undervalued for a lot of reasons.
I think it's still going to go up. Yeah, I'm with you. I do think it's kind of getting to that point, like a 2-bedrooms renting, and a nice 2-bedroom. I've heard my buddy has a place like $2,400 a month. He had offers at. it was a pretty large 2-bedroom, like, 1,500 square foot. But if that's happening, I mean, that's getting quite expensive for the average person. So,
Absolutely.
like you said, like, people will invest till there's no more cash flow. I think average homeowners will keep driving prices up until they just can't afford it anymore. And then what happens? I don't know. Like, because wages aren't going up as fast as these prices are. So that part, I'm not completely sure what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. There's a couple things, right? And I think we should actually do another podcast on this, because I think we would have an amazing podcast on affordable housing, because it is a really important point, right? But obviously we talked about, or we've heard about the announcement that we're going to have record level immigration for the next, X amount of years. Yeah. And what's the biggest thing driving the real estate market? It's supply and demand, right?
Oh, of course.
And then you
look at too much demand and not enough supply.
Yeah, and then you look at, for example, all the debt we're taking in. So what's happening? Yeah. Inflation. So the cost to build new homes is going to be even harder, right? So everything's kind of pointing towards this problem that we have actually expanding, not really being resolved. I hope it's resolved. I do feel bad for somebody who's 16 years old right now, and in 4 years or 5 years is going to start to consider getting in the housing market, and the market they get into is going to be very difficult, because I was blessed that I was born I wasn't born in Hamilton, but I grew up in Hamilton. And when I was 21, 22, starting to consider buying a house, well, you could buy a house under $200,000 in Hamilton.
That's insane.
That's insane, right? So, a house I bought for $195,000 with a 5% down, less than $10,000 down payment, is now worth in the mid fives.
That's so crazy.
Right? So just that little investment could turn into so much, right? So I don't take credit for that. I got, there's a lot of luck involved in this too, right? Now, the strategies we are using now are a lot more sophisticated, right? And there's a lot more strategy behind it, right? But I wonder what's going to happen. I think what you're going to see, co-ownership is going to be becoming much more popular. People are going to be buying with friends as opposed to just with a family.
Smaller units.
Smaller units, but then, the government is going to need to step up and allow, better guidelines in terms of what's an acceptable accessory dwelling, right? I know in Hamilton, I think you have to have at least 700 square feet for a basement unit, and, but condos at 500 square feet sell no problem. So why do we need 700 square feet in a basement, right? So they need to make it easier so people can actually provide the supply.
And that'll be, this is all about predicting, what's our government going to do? And a lot of that is in our hands in terms of what we elect, what kind of government and what we stick up for and push for from our government. So, and that's a whole other rabbit hole we could go down. Resist the Great Reset, I'll say that much. If you haven't looked that one up, look it up. It's actual insanity out in the open now. That kind of stuff used to be a great conspiracy theory, and now... Something worth looking up, I will say that much.
What we're seeing is, we can go on forever on that.
It's this, just the idea. Like, I think a lot of people who listen to this podcast, if you're in business for yourself, it's kind of like a conservative ideology. Like, I'm going to make it for myself. And so many people who come on this podcast have that attitude. I don't need anything from anybody. I'm going to go make it for myself. I think you're that attitude. I'm that attitude. And I love that. I love that about business people, and that's what they do. But there is the other side of the coin, and there is the other, kind of movement that we're seeing today. And, you say the government's stepping up. I think that certainly is something that we may see. I'd like to see them take a step back, like you kind of indicated, and let the market operate. Like, we're going to need to see like new land be developable. It's going to need to happen, right? Like, our planning process is quite slow and lethargic. And I think by knowing this stuff, long-winded commentary here, knowing that the process is lethargic, we've got huge immigration, it's quite simple to see what's coming. It's going to get harder and harder to buy places. So really the answer is, if you can cash flow, for me, if I can cash flow and I can find a way to get my money back out, I'll buy as much of the real estate as I can. As long as I believe that I'll get to keep that real estate, no one's going to come take it from me.
And and what's the number one reason people are investing in real estate? They want some financial independence, but really people are thinking about taking care of their family, their loved ones. Retirement isn't just for you, it's probably for your partner in life too, your kids in the future, helping them do stuff. So I always think about, if my kids are going to buy property one day, or where are my kids going to live one day? So a lot of these properties might be your kids' only chance at home ownership if things just continue to trend the way we're seeing them.
Right. And like, look at inflation. Like, hypothetically, say interest rates stay roughly where they are, because if they increase too much, our government can't afford it. Citizens can't afford it. So say they stay around 2 or 3%, but inflation goes nuts, like I kind of expect it to. It's going to inflate your debt away. Eventually, your debt will become insignificant because your $500,000 house became worth $5 million because of massive inflation. I don't know how soon that would happen, but that's something that's always been in my mind when I bought real estate. Like if it cash flows and inflation is taking care of my value, I actually kind of win because of inflation.
Well, the thing is too, is like, so think about the way you're speaking right now, right? So we are both kind of taking a position of counter what our government is doing. But meanwhile, all those decisions are benefiting us. So for example, the inflation benefits the property owners, right? The increased supply and demand benefits the property owners. So all this stuff is directly benefiting us financially, but we're still taking the position of this isn't right for the majority of people.
Well, I want to see Canada be Canada. And if we keep going down the path we're on, spending the way we're spending, injecting, $500 billion into the economy this year, which through fractional reserve lending is going to turn into $5 trillion over the next several years, that's way too much money in our system that needs to be soaked up by the sponge that is our economy. That's scary. Like, where's that money going to go? We have like a $1 trillion economy. So what, is that just going to turn into a $3 trillion economy?
I think the answer really is people need to read past headlines, right? So for example, there was a headline I posted about on my Facebook page, and it was, the Liberals pledge $1 billion towards affordable housing. So anybody who reads that is saying, great, affordable housing is an issue and they're going to put $1 billion behind it. That sounds amazing, right? And then you read the article and it says they're going to buy up all these distressed hotels and motels, and they're going to create affordable housing, and they think they're going to be able to create 3,000 units. So $1 billion for 3,000 units created. That means it's costing them, this program, over $300,000 per one single affordable unit created.
It's not so affordable.
So, you look at all these people who are just desperate to actually get permits to put accessory dwellings in their house. If you just gave them a $15,000 incentive to put an affordable unit and make sure that you have to prove that you rent it out for, a designated affordable price for 1 year, 2 years, whatever the thing was, you could literally get 20 times the amount of units for that. For that same amount of money. So, it's just, if you actually look at what's happening, we have to read past the headlines. Yeah,
exactly. I think you're right. And what you're pointing to is like, let independent people go pursue a capitalist intention. Like we all want to provide for our families, like you said. So I can do this and I can create this value and I can create this wealth for my family. I'm going to do that. I think the private market is held accountable. If you do a bad job, you lose. Governments don't. So that's why I personally feel, and hey, this is just an off the cuff conversation. You guys don't need to agree with us. This is just kind of my thoughts. I think that if you let the private market act, a lot of times it actually works out better because governments are inefficient inherently, right? They're not held accountable. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? So, they're there for a term. They're there for however long they're involved in politics, and they're not left with that debt, right? But the country's left with that debt. Yeah. Whereas if we make bad financial decisions for our family, we're living with that debt.
Yeah, we got to live with it, right? So we make better decisions. Yeah. So absolutely, Jacob, remind our listeners where they can find you. Like, where do they follow you if they want to follow your real estate journey or if they want to contact you?
Yeah, definitely reach out to me. I think Instagram's usually the best place, at Jacob Perez 10. Feel free to follow me. There's actually a booking button right in my profile, so you can actually book a call with me. That's how I meet so many different people off Instagram. Also, please check out Synergy Mortgage Group, our brokerage. We work with over 500 investors every single year in Canada, and our kind of specialty is taking people from 1 to 7, 8, 9, 10 properties, and showing you what kind of metrics you need to know in advance so you can buy the right properties that allow you to buy over and over at your maximum purchase price. So I'd say, hit me up, Jacob Perez, especially at Instagram, and love to have a dialogue with everyone.
Yeah, well, that was you've practiced that. You go really fast on that one. Yeah, man, that was great. It's always nice catching up with you. You're aggressive in this space, and you're one of the names that people need to know. So I really appreciate having you on for the second time.
Yep.
And we'll do a third, round 3 and another 50 or 60 episodes. We'll see.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
Right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Please make sure to share this episode far and wide. Help it help more people. I really appreciate you tuning in. Thanks. I'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, I just wanted to take a moment and give a shout out to a couple of very important local businesses to me. As you know, this lockdown has been tough on everyone, and small businesses have been taking the brunt of it. So there's 2 specific businesses I wanted to give a shout out to. This is a completely unpaid promotion. They didn't ask me to do this, but I wanted to give them a shout out because I think they're really important and I want to see them be successful. So one is New York Men's Grooming Lounge here in Burlington, Ontario. I always see Sergio every month. They do a fantastic job. Their atmosphere there is fantastic. There's usually some Frank Sinatra playing in the background. They're a great establishment, even if you just want to go in and have an espresso or have a beer and chat. It really is a lounge and social location, which is just such a unique concept in today's market. Really like those guys. I really want to see them succeed. If you're looking for a fantastic men's haircut and grooming experience, I highly recommend them. The next one I wanted to give a shout out to is Dr. Mike White over at the Momentum Health Clinic in Hamilton. Dr. Mike has been able to help me many times over the years when I've hurt my back. He's a chiropractor, so I'd be in a position where I couldn't even walk, I couldn't turn. I was in an agonizing pain, and I'd go to Dr. Mike, and usually I'm 100% better within a week. Now, I know it's a touchy thing with a medical service, so always consult with your medical professional before seeking any form of treatment. I just wanted to let you know my experience here, and I certainly think Mike White is worth considering. I've included the details for both of these contacts in my show notes. Please show them support if you see fit. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.